Tonight's show is brought to you by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. Get ready to smile.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Well, hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Really do appreciate it. Do us a favor since we're just jumping in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck. And, of course, with your Atlanta Braves. And, boy, do we got some news. Finally, after a long offseason of just not a lot happening, the Braves make a major drop in the bucket here. Jurickson Profar signed to the Braves today for 3 years, $42 million. He will make $12 million this season, which does keep the Braves under the luxury tax by $12 million. He will get paid $15 million in 2026 as well as 2027. This is a nice pickup for the Braves. Jurickson Profar was an all-star last year. In the press release today, the Braves also noted that his F-WAR was 4.3 last year. That was most by any primary left fielder in the National League. And Jurickson Profar will likely find a permanent spot in left field. I assume that's where he'll start the season, and I also assume that's where he'll be once Ronald Acuña returns. That is where he will be, I think, permanently. Jurickson Profar is going to be your starting left fielder, which is a nice thing to hear because it's been a few years since we've had somebody permanently in place in left field. We've been operating on platoons over the years. We've seen the Eddie Rosarios, the Adam Duvals come through. And it's just nice to know that, hey, this is the guy day in, day out. He's going to fill this spot in the field as well as the lineup. Of course, last year you see it on your screen, 280 average, 776 OPS, 24 homers. That's not his best season, but it's the season he's coming off of. He gets, of course, $42 million again from the Braves, which is a pretty substantial contract, especially when you consider that the Braves don't dish those out very often. They don't like to dish out long-term contracts for substantial money, especially to guys that aren't from within, and even more so that they're unfamiliar with. So I think this makes sense. We've heard a lot of chatter about this this offseason. We didn't know how much credit to really give to it because a lot of the times we're hearing that, well, yes, this perfectly adds up, but you never know how a player envisions himself. You don't know if he says, okay, I'll take a little less money to go to the Braves as opposed to I'm going to get the most I can get. And, you know, a lot of times they don't like the Braves, don't like talking and operating with the Boris Corporation. That didn't seem to get in the way of this. Again, this makes the most sense. They're the team with the left field need. The one question I have is, where does Jarred Kelenic go from here? I've already seen some chat in the chat. I've already seen a few comments about this. Where does Jarred Kelenic go from here? Is he now on the way out? Is he headed to somewhere else? Could he be traded? I don't know. I definitely think he's your most tradable piece in the sense that if he was to leave, it wouldn't affect you as much as somebody else. But even with that, he is good for depth. You know, he plays great defense, which is notable. And, you know, to that point, with this Jurickson Profar deal, how nice is it going to be knowing that you're going to have pretty good defense for the majority of this year? In Braves country, we love Jorge Soler. But this past season, after Acuña got hurt, having Soler in the outfield was a big question mark. We knew that going in, and it never really got a whole lot better. Now that you have Profar, who plays good defense, you have Michael Harris, who plays gold glove level defense, and you have Ronald Acuña in right field, who can throw anybody out from seemingly anywhere when healthy. Eventually, when you get Acuña back, you're going to be in good shape defensively in the outfield. This also secures your lineup a bit because you had two kind of circles, you know, in the lineup where you're a little unsure of the offensive production. Of course, the other being Orlando Arcia. A lot of people thought Arcia might find his way out. I guess he still could, but I doubt it. I thought if they were going to get a bat, it would be for the outfield because you don't know when Acuña is going to be back. And that's what they did. They went and got Profar. I still think pitching is the priority. I've said that all offseason. I still think that's what the Braves are really operating on. I think this was kind of pushed to the back because you can easily find a bat in the outfield. They wanted to attack pitching. We know they were in on conversations with Jeff Hoffman, had a deal pretty much, and they backed out due to the physical. We know they were talking to Tanner Scott. Of course, he goes to the Dodgers on a $72 million deal. I'm sure once those two went away, it was a lot easier for Profar to make a deal with Profar because you knew that money wasn't locked up, and you also knew that, hey, we want to get this locked up before he heads anywhere else. And again, this makes the most sense in terms of an outfield bat. Profar was the guy that everybody was talking about for the Braves. It makes sense. I really like the deal. And look, I think ultimately when you look at where we are right now in the offseason, I think this shows you, number one, the Braves aren't just going away. It's funny. Right before I was doing this live stream, I was editing a video, putting a video together where the crux of it was, where is Alex Anthopoulos? Because we haven't seen a lot. We've seen a lot of minor league contracts. We've seen a lot of little deals, but nothing substantial until today. And that was the crux of the video. I'm halfway through editing that video, and then I get this announcement on my phone. I rush home, and I get on here because I had to talk to you guys directly. So this is very exciting. I'm curious to see how Profar performs in his first season in Atlanta. We've seen guys perform really well in Atlanta from the jump. We've also seen in Sean Murphy's case, it takes a little while, or even Matt Olson's case. His first year was solid, but his second year took right off. I'm curious to see how he performs. A lot of expectations are going to be on him. But this is a big-time deal for the Braves. Again, I have to say, very exciting here for the Braves, and really, I would say a pretty good deal. 3-year at $42 million, that's pretty darn good. And again, if the Braves do intend to stay under the luxury tax, this is a great deal for them because you have $12 million to work with. Maybe you sign a couple relievers for low-level cost or whatever, but you have a little room to work with and still be under that luxury tax if you so choose to. Now, the Braves may say, we're not worried about the luxury tax. Doesn't matter. We wanted to get Profar locked up. But even so, it's still a very affordable rate for a pretty good player. And again, 2024 All-Star, you have to imagine that the Braves are excited to get their hands on somebody who's coming off a great season with the Padres, played in the postseason, didn't have terrific stats. I believe he had a .222 average in the division series. No homers to speak of. But here's the thing. The guy can rake. I mean, he hit 24 homers last year, had a .280 average. In 23, he had a .295 average. So he's really good. And again, he's going to play consistent defense, which I think is just as important as his offense, especially after what we saw this past season. You had a lot of different guys in and out. Defense was, uncharacteristically questionable, right? The previous years with Ron Washington and EY controlling the infield and outfield defenses, and on top of that, consistency from the players day in, day out, they're on the field. You didn't really see that, and this past year, the Braves certainly took a downtick in that regard, and I'm not saying that that's the reason it didn't turn out how they wanted. Of course, there were offensive concerns too, but defense was a factor. Make no mistake. But look, again, exciting news for the Braves. Jurickson Profar, we all kind of thought this may happen, and here we are on January 23rd. It has finally happened a couple of weeks out from spring training. Jurickson Profar is indeed an Atlanta Brave. I'm excited to see where Alex Anthopoulos goes from here. I believe he's going to do some media availability here soon. I will not be on that call, but I'm sure a lot of people will. And we'll hear a little bit more from the perspective as to where they may go. Of course, he's going to be tight-lipped, and we know he's not going to tell us everything he's planning, but we may hear a little something to indicate that the Braves maybe aren't done, right? There may be more to go from here. I certainly think so. Again, $12 million left before you get to the luxury tax. Maybe you can get a couple of deals where there's a little deferred money. Not at an Ohtani level by any means, but maybe you have a deal where you pay a guy $2 million this year and $16 million this year so you can reset the tax. Maybe that's a situation where they go. I'm not sure, and to be honest with you, I'm not even sure that they really care. But I would imagine that maybe not Alex Anthopoulos, but maybe the Liberty Media aspect of this would like them to reset that and start anew for next year. So a lot of different ways this can go. I think the Braves are far from done. I think we got to get a couple of relievers, and I think we need a starter. So to me, if you're looking at the luxury tax and you're wondering, will the Braves go over? Will they stay under? I personally think they're going to go over. I've said that all offseason. I don't see, in a world where the Braves are competitive, I just don't see where they can possibly not go over, right? If you sign a starting pitcher and 2 relievers, it's going to be really hard to do that within $12 million budget, and that's what they have left for this year, right? Before Profar, they were at $217 million. With Profar, they're at $229 million. That is, again, $12 million below the luxury tax this year of $241 million. So I personally, I think they're going to go over. I don't see a world where they don't go over it. And that said, that doesn't mean that they're going to go ballistically over it like you've seen in LA and even in New York. I don't think they're going to do anything like that. We don't have the payroll ability for that, but I definitely think they're going to go over. They're not going to reset the tax. The window's closing, and what I mean by that is, you're only going to have Acuña locked up on this deal for so long. You're only going to have Albies locked up on his deal for so long. At some point, your competitive window is going to run out. I would imagine somewhere around 2028, 29, maybe even around 2030 if you can make it that far. You're still going to have certain guys locked up, but not everybody. To get this window, to perform at this window, you're going to have to break some luxury taxes. You're going to have to go past that barrier unless you possibly make a trade and offload money. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people are talking about offloading money. A big contract falls off the books next year, and that, of course, is Marcell Ozuna. So that's $16 million off, and maybe you say, we're not going to re-sign him, or we're going to re-sign him for less if you can. He wants to stay a Brave. Okay, take $8 million, whatever the case may be. We've seen the Braves offload cash already. We saw them not pick up d'Arnaud this year, right? We've seen them do these things. I definitely think they're managing their money in a situation where they'd like to stay as far down as they can. Even if they go over, they don't want to go dramatically over and have to pay everybody even more, right? The less you go over, the better, even if you do go over. So there's a lot of chatter out there. I know a lot of people are talking Dylan Cease as of late. That to me is questionable, and I'm going to tell you why. If you remember, there was a video of Alex Anthopoulos being asked at Braves Fest last year, hey, will we sign Dylan Cease? It was a fan holding up a sign, and if you're that fan out there watching, credit to you, because you got a good answer out of him. But there was a fan out there holding up a sign that said, sign Dylan Cease, and he literally did this right here. It's too expensive. So I don't know what trade we could do to where, because whoever... they're going to want to offload cash by giving us Cease, right? We're going to have to pay that. I would just be surprised if the Braves were able to do that and not give up their entire farm system. Because and to be honest with you, the Braves farm system is not exactly prolific at the moment. It's not at least rated very high. There's some diamonds in the rough, but I just don't know that you're going to have really an ability to do that compared to other teams that I'm sure are making the same phone calls trying to get Dylan Cease. Starting pitching comes at a premium, and Dylan Cease is up there, especially with some of these other guys that are now signed elsewhere. But I would add to that, we've seen, Alex Anthopoulos trade for Chris Sale with Vaughn Grissom last year, and all of a sudden Chris Sale, who wasn't in the Cy Young conversation at all before this past season, wins the thing. So there's different ways this can go. The Braves could certainly make a move and do certain things to do that. I think Kelenic is a valuable trade piece if they wanted to do it. I think you have some guys in the minors. Maybe you have a competition in spring training to determine how you want to handle your starting rotation. We've talked about that as well with the likes of Ian Anderson, Bryce Elder, A.J. Smith-Shawver, and Hurston Waldrop, and even beyond that with Grant Holmes and a number of other guys. There is that ability to have that competition. But then once you have it, where does the rest of them go, right? Maybe you have that competition and you trade the best one to get an actual starting pitcher that's has the name value, it has the resume to be in the rotation, and you give the other team a prospect that's capable of growing their farm system up or whatever the case may be in an AJ Smith-Shawver or even a Hurston Waldrop. If it's me, I prefer to keep those guys because they are really good and have a ton of potential, and I'd like to see what they can do given the opportunity. But there is a situation where you could throw a package together in the likes of a Ian Anderson and a Bryce Elder and maybe a Jared Kelenic and land a solid couple of relievers or a starting pitcher. There is that situation as well. There is still a lot on the table out there, a lot of notable free agents in both starting pitchers and relief pitchers. Nobody to me that just jumps off the page and is like, that's a perfect fit. But there is a situation where I think the Braves could sign a couple of small deals to make it work, right? So notable free agents for me in starting pitching, I mean, these are just, look, this is how many I wrote down. I'll just show you. There's a whole list of these guys. Jack Flaherty, right? Kyle Gibson, Nick Pivetta, Andrew Heaney, Clayton Kershaw, Julio Teheran, former Atlanta Braves, Zach Davies, Wade Miley, Marco Gonzalez, Dallas Keuchel's out there if we want him. Anthony Desclafani, Max Scherzer. We did a video on him. That's an interesting case. Jose Quintana, Mike Clevenger, Lance Lynn, Alex Wood, Ross Stripling, Cal Quantrill, Domingo Germán, Jose Urquidy, Ross Stripling, Chris Flexen, Carlos Carrasco, and last on the list, Jose Urena. So there are guys out there, again, none that really, to me, jump off the page. If I'm going to pick one out of this list, I'd probably go either Pivetta or Kershaw in terms of who the Braves would be most likely to sign, because I think you could get them for an affordable price due to Kershaw's age and due to Pivetta's age and ERA last year. Pivetta had like a 4 ERA. That might be his career ERA. But Pivetta, that's similar to Morton. Pivetta could be a veteran guy in the back end of the rotation to help bridge that gap. I think that's more along the lines of where the Braves are going to go from here if they sign anybody for the rotation. I think they really need to attack the pen, right? The fact that they were in on Hoffman and the fact that they were in on Tanner Scott, the fact that they were in on both of those guys, those are the two highest deals right now. Those are it. Those are the two guys that everybody was talking about. Tanner Scott, of course, was looking at the highest level of pay, or maybe the highest touted pitcher out of those two. Jeff Hoffman right below. The fact that the Braves had a 5-year deal pinned and written with Jeff Hoffman pending a physical is interesting. And I'm going to tell you why it's interesting. They had that deal pinned out and made before this Profar deal was. So that to me tells you that they're going to prioritize this bullpen. And they should, because you have Joe Jimenez out. You've lost A.J. Minter to a division rival. You have Jesse Chavez, who's no longer with the Braves, could be, but is no longer with the Braves currently. You have a lot of questions right now, right? If Grant Holmes is a starter, that's just one more piece of the pin removed. So you have a lot of questions, a lot of moving pieces with the bullpen, and the Braves know that. That's why they've been in those conversations and been willing to give a 5-year deal to Jeff Hoffman, right? They also saw what he did with the Phillies. So, personally, out of right now with the relief pitchers, I think you need a couple of lefties. I don't have anybody that I've circled for that, but just some relief pitcher free agents that I've picked up on. David Robertson's my number one. David Robertson right now, I believe he's played with both the Mets and the Phillies over the past few years. Really solid righty reliever. We were in on him, I want to say, at the deadline last year. We talked about him a lot. I really wanted him at the deadline. I thought he could really help steady the pen. Kenley Jansen, former Atlanta Brave, is out there. I know people have their questions around Kenley Jansen, but look, dude's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, one of the greatest relievers of all time. He's got the records. If you could get him at an affordable rate, you'd be dumb not to, in my opinion. Craig Kimbrell is indeed out there. He could use a change of scenery, maybe come back a little closer to home, where he did so much as a rookie and as a young reliever. Brooks Raley's out there. Andrew Chafin's out there. Amir Garrett is out there. And I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, but Tyler Matzik is out there. So there are some guys. There are guys still out there. I keep getting the question, Tyler, what are the Braves going to do? Who's out there to even sign anymore? There's plenty. Now, you may have to get a little deeper cut. You may have to decide, hey, we're going to take a risk here and we're going to work with this guy. We see something in this guy that says he can do more than what he's done in the past couple of seasons. Chris Sale's a good example. Pierce Johnson's a good example. You remember that? You remember when we got Pierce Johnson? That was a guy who, came in, had a rough first half of the season in Colorado. Who wouldn't? But we brought him in. All of a sudden, he's lights out. So bullpens are very hit or miss, right? Some guys are consistent. A lot of guys are up and down, and you got to ride the wave. But right now with the Braves, I think they got to make a couple of moves in the pen. Starting rotation, I'm all right with testing who we have, because I have belief in the fact that, hey, we drafted these guys. Ian Anderson pitched in a World Series game only a few years ago. He's been hurt, but he's still got the talent. A.J. Smith-Shawver, I don't think has really ever been given a proper opportunity to show that he can do this. Bryce Elder, he's been hot and cold, but if he can get hot this year and carry it through the end of the year, that'd be great. So there's a lot of different ways this can go. Personally, I think we got to attack bullpen. That's just what I think. We're going to go to break. Once again, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for tuning in. We got a lot of viewership. Really do appreciate that. Don't go anywhere. When we get back, we're going to go through the comments. I know we have a lot to talk about. It's been a busy day with Jurickson Profar and all this going on. I want to talk to you about it. So get your comments in. If you want to get first in line, remember, Super Chats do get priority. If you give us money, I'm going to read your comment first. Before we go to break, though, do me a favor. If you've enjoyed this content so far and you think you're going to enjoy the rest, please do like the video. It really helps get this out there to a wider audience. We're trying to grow. You can be a part of that. If you have not already, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck and, of course, with your Atlanta Braves. We'll be right back after the break.
In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika. New GMC Sierra 4x4 crew cabs, discounted up to $12,000 off. GMC Terrain with a roomy cabin and pro safety, discounted up to $7,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payments for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile. In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. New Chevy Silverado 4x4 crew cabs, discounted up to $12,000 off. Brand new 2025 Chevy Equinox, the compact SUV with high-tech features, discounted up to $5,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payments for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody, and once again, thank you for joining us here tonight. You could be anywhere. You chose to be here. We really do appreciate that. And again, thank you for commenting. Get those in. We're going to try to read as many as possible. Got nowhere to be other than here. And again, what an exciting day for the Braves. This is a big-time deal. And look, they could have signed a lot of folks. We've heard they were in on Scott. We heard they were in on Hoffman. They elected to finally put the pen to paper with Jurickson Profar. I think it's a solid move. Once again, 280 average last year, 776 OPS, 24 homers, all-star, solid season, good defense. Is going to fill. I think he's very athletic. I think he's going to fit in nicely with the lineup. I haven't drawn up a lineup or anything. I think he's just a good piece to have in it, and I really like this. I think he's going to fit in well with the Braves. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get into the comments. Our first comment of the night, no surprise, comes from Yasuke Knight. It says, awesome. Let's see. Can't wait to see what he does for the team this season. Couldn't agree more. Jeff Wilson says, go Braves. Daniel Barry says, Padres downfall. Maybe. You might have some. You might be onto something there. Robert Blackman says, finally, and it's not a minor league signing. Well, there's been a couple of minor league signings that I think have been interesting, and I'm going to tell you why. We interviewed one on the channel here, Colton Ingram. He went to college at the same time I did at Columbus State University, which I know a lot of you guys haven't heard of, but it's down here in Columbus, Georgia. He's in the Columbus State University Hall of Fame. I want to say he's got the most strikeouts in the history of the university. Very good, big name within that little circle. He pitched with the Angels over the past couple of years. He's moved around a bit, but that's a guy that I think could potentially surprise some folks. He's got good velo, good movement on his off speed stuff. I think he's a guy who could shock some people in spring training and really make a push. Jordan Weems is the one, though, that, again, from right here in Columbus, ironically, went to school up the street, played baseball up the street at Columbus High School, also the alma mater of Frank Thomas, under Bobby Howard. They won a couple state championships there. He's played with the Nationals, I know. He's played with the A's, I know. He's got great velo. His ability to control it's been a little questionable. I think working with the Braves is going to be interesting because he's always wanted to play there for obvious reasons. He's lived an hour and a half south of the stadium his entire life. So obviously that's, two minor league signings that I think are pretty interesting just from my perspective because they're both from here. I've met them both a time or two anyway. I find those a little interesting, at least for me to just keep an eye on. Plan to catch up with Weems in spring training. So that'll come up sooner rather than later. But very exciting, and look, I think this Profar deal by far is the biggest deal of the offseason. Had we signed Tanner Scott, that probably would have been, but Profar is easily the biggest deal so far this offseason. Jake Hobby says, I wonder if that makes Kelenic available in a trade for someone like Cease. I like how you said someone like Cease and not just Cease, right? Don't get your head so wrapped up on just a player, because that's not how AA is going to think about it. He's going to think about, what can I trade Kelenic for that's going to give us the most value in a place of need, right? It may be two relievers. It may be a reliever. It could be a lot of different things. Kelenic does have value in that he is locked up, I want to say, for another year after this one. He does have that going for him, and he does play excellent defense. His bat has always been the thing that has limited him. He had moments of greatness. I think the fact when he was playing every day this past year, that seemed to help him, but he's a streaky player. He just is what it is. I think if he can get more consistent, you're looking at a guy who could very well carry a lot of value for a club. Now, that's all based on, hearsay, in the sense of it's all based on, well, sure, he could, but will he, right? That's the gamble, and that's the pitch you're going to have to use if you're Alex Anthopoulos, is think about what he could do for you. Let's see. Peter Parker joins the chat. Peter Parker, famously known as Spider-Man also. Who is he replacing? Peter Parker, he is replacing nobody. He is an addition, obviously. It's not that he's replacing anybody. I think he's going to help fill the need while Acuña's out, right? I think you may see Profar take over left field permanently, but you may see Kelenic move to right at the start of the season if Acuña is not playing the field at that time. When Acuña comes back, I think you see Kelenic possibly traded, or you see Kelenic go to the bench, which is, I think, a good spot for Kelenic because he is good off the bench and the little roles that we've seen. So I'm curious to see how it goes, but that's how I'd play it, is Kelenic moves to right, Profar's in left because that's where he's going to play all year. And once Acuña's back in right, Kelenic, again, moves to the bench. So a lot of things we could see there, a lot of different ways they could go about it. Maybe Kelenic fills in for Harris on a day off here or there once Acuña's back, and maybe he fills in for Profar. Maybe, there's a lot of things they could do, but that's kind of how I'm seeing it at the moment. Maverick Sports tunes in, says, what's up? He also says, negative, that would make the other players ready for trade. Not sure what you're talking about there. Okay, Trust No. I must have put down the wrong OPS. Sorry. So his OPS last year was 839. Even better. Thank you for that. William Fulgham, Kelenic in a trade for Cease and bring back Laureano. I like Laureano. I thought Laureano, even before we got him, I liked the fact that we signed him because he was a really good defender, solid bat. And I really liked Laureano. I've interviewed Laureano. Nice guy, super nice guy. You could tell he loved being with the Braves last year, and, it is what it is. I'm going to interrupt this really quickly because I just got a tweet. It's no announcement or anything, but I think you'll enjoy this. Michael Harris II just tweeted, "Welcome to the A, Jurickson Profar." So, hey, if you're not excited about it, Michael Harris is excited about it. So that's good to know. I got a feeling, Michael Harris probably is looking forward to just spending time with Profar. I think they'll get along well. Stud asks a pretty fair question. Do we even have a rotation? We do. We do have a rotation, believe it or not. It is, of course, you got Chris Sale at the top. You have Reynaldo Lopez. You have Spencer Schwellenbach. That's your three. Beyond that, yeah, you got some question marks. I think you're going to have to sign somebody else to help fill that, and I think you're also probably going to compete there with the guys I mentioned earlier: Bryce Elder, AJ Smith-Shawver. Your minor league guys, even Darius Vines, Hurston Waldrop, Alan Winans. There's a lot of guys you could throw in the mix there to have compete. But personally, I think the rotation is going to be, again, the least of your worries. I think you're going to be more focused on your pen because of how much you're losing there as well. The pitching is where I think full focus is going to go after this Profar thing. I think we're moving fully to pitching at this point. Let's see. Mark Narmore says we can beat the Dodgers right now, but if we sign a starting pitcher and a shortstop, then look out. I don't think we're signing a shortstop. I could be wrong, but I just don't think so. I really think outfield's going to be their main focus. I mean, look, anytime you can get a good player, Alex Anthopoulos has said that they're going to be willing to spend the money on the right guy. So who am I to say that they just won't sign a shortstop, right? If Alex Rodriguez got back in the league right now, they'd probably pay for him if they wanted him. But at the same time, I just don't see that being likely. I don't see them determining that that's a need enough to where they're willing to trade for one, and certainly not enough to where they're willing to pay for one outright right now, especially when you look at the pitching side of things and you see how depleted both the bullpen and starting rotation are. That's your biggest concern, right? Your offense, is going to have its bouts of inconsistency, but if your rotation is not consistent, you're really going to be in a pickle. The Braves, as long as I've been watching them, as long as probably most of you have been watching them, they've been built on pitching. And I can't imagine that that's not the focus right now. Because if we know that the rotation is depleted and the bullpen's depleted, make no mistake, Alex Anthopoulos has a big old bulletin board in his office right now with options for filling those holes. So I'm curious to see how it goes. But I just don't believe that we're going to attack for offense. If it happens, then I think the Braves determine that it was the right deal and they're willing to do it for a long-term need, right? Profar wasn't signed to a 1-year deal. He was signed to a 3-year deal. I think if you sign a shortstop, it's got to be long-term. And I think if you were going to do that, we probably would have been in more conversations about Adames. I don't think the Braves were really ever in on Adames. I thought that early on. A lot of you guys wanted them to be. I was there from the jump going, this isn't the one. This isn't the one the Braves are going to do, which isn't a popular opinion at the time. At the time, a lot of folks were like, you're crazy, and the Braves got to be in on this. I never thought so. I always thought that the Braves are going to attack what? Pitching. So I still think that's the case, and I'm going to stand true to that. But even so, if the Braves do come across a trade where they didn't, foresee it coming, then yeah, they may pick up a shortstop, but it'd be more along the lines of this deal was too good to walk away from. And really, when you look at the minors right now, you have some options there for the future as well. I think Orlando Arcia is at such a good premium. I mean, I think he's making less than $3 million a year. He's giving you great defense, and what he doesn't give you in offense, other people are supposed to carry, right? So if he's your 9-hole hitter, you're not doing bad. First of all, if he's your 9-hole hitter, but if he is, okay, well, who's he batting in front of? Acuña. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I think a large part to Orlando's struggles this past season were the fact that Ronald Acuña wasn't batting behind him in the order. And no, he's not batting behind him, but every time Arcia comes to bat, number one Acuña is right behind him, right? So he's seen a lot of fastballs. He's seen a lot less movement on the pitches. And I think that played to his advantage. You go a year without Acuña, and granted, Acuña wasn't exactly the MVP he was in 23 when he did play in 24, but he still is Ronald Acuña, and he's still a threat more so than Arcia. Arcia is supposed to set the table for the top of the order. That's what his role is. And I hate to say it, but throughout all the injuries last year, he wasn't able to be used in that way. He just wasn't. And he was expected to all of a sudden contribute on the power side of things as much as anybody. And that's a lot to ask for a guy who, again, is making $2.3 million, was never expected to do that, and now all of a sudden, because of all these injuries, he's got to be the guy who carries the load. That does a lot on your mind, and it did a lot to a lot of players. Kevin Seitzer even talked about it, where they're all trying to do too much. It's hard to break through to them because they're all trying to swing too hard, or they're just in their own mind. When you get the ability to not focus on I gotta carry this, and you're able to set the man up behind you, you're able to be a lot more successful and a lot more consistent because you're not forcing it. And unfortunately, this past season, there was a lot of forcing. There just was, right? Because you don't have Acuña, because Austin Riley's out this week, or Sean Murphy's out, or Michael Harris was out, or Albies was out. There's just a substantial amount of injury time there. And I'm not saying that's all the problems of the offense. It's not. But they never got on a roll, not really, unless your name's Ozuna. The team certainly never got on a roll. And I firmly believe that's due to the injuries. I think if you're kidding yourself if you don't think it's the injuries. There's a lot of mentality of suck it up. You got to play through the injuries, and you got to be good. And look, I'm sure that's what the Braves were thinking. Right? I'm sure that's what Snit was preaching, right? In the locker room, right? And that's not how you want to think. You don't want to think, oh, well, we're defeated. No, you don't want to think that. But in reality, looking back on a season, I think we can all agree that the injuries took a toll, and it was what it was. Now you're in a position where everybody assumes, I assume anyway, everybody's going to come back healthy at some point, and you're going to be able to reconstruct. Now, the one thing I will say is that if the Braves believed it was only the injuries, I don't think Kevin Seitzer gets fired. I definitely think a change of philosophy was wanted for sure. And look, maybe it's because they were trying to do too much, right? 2023. They had a great offensive year due to the home run. They tied for most homers for a team in history. It was crazy. You come off a year like that, yeah, you're going to want to do it again. And I think maybe they were trying to do that. So maybe Tim Hires, the new hitting coach, can have that different approach. But there's a lot of different ways this can go. And I know I just rambled for like 5 minutes, but you talked about a shortstop. I don't think Arcia is really needed to be replaced. I think he could really be good. I think we can compete with the Dodgers, even with what we have, like you said, but I think our additions have to be in the pitching department. I don't think they can be in the position player. I will disagree with it if it happens, unless it is just unforeseen who the player is. Even if it's Bo Bichette, I'm not going for it. I just don't think that makes a lot of sense, unless you're just willing to throw the luxury tax out of it, and all of a sudden you sign a big-time shortstop along with, a big-time starter and two big-time relievers, which with what we have right now, I don't know that you're going to be able to do that. So unless they do that, I'd be surprised if their next move wasn't pitching related. I would just be very surprised. A lot of people in here tonight. Thank you again. And reminder, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck. And, of course, with your Atlanta Braves. We really appreciate you joining us here tonight. Maverick Sports says the Braves can offload David Fletcher's contract as well as $16 million. Look, I would love to offload that contract. I don't know how they're going to do it. Without a trade. When is he a free agent? I haven't even looked, because David Fletcher has been in the minors now for a while. Let me see David Fletcher's stats, see when he's a free agent. According to Baseball Reference, he is a free agent, if it'll tell me. He is a free agent. There's a team option in 26. So, yeah, he's a free agent, I guess, after this year. So I doubt we pick up the option, depending on how much it costs, because we're paying him a ton of money. I just don't see that. So yeah, I mean that next year. So you're offloading $16 million there. You're offloading, or however much his contract is, offloading $16 million for Ozuna. There's a lot of different ways that can go. Offloading that much money is really going to help them. Hey, they could say forget the luxury tax this year and then do it next. There's a lot of ways it can go. But yeah, we'll see what happens for sure. A lot of folks in here tonight. Again, really do appreciate it. You could be anywhere you're deciding to be with us. Please do, again, though, like the video. It really does help us get to a broader audience, and we certainly do appreciate it. This is a funny name, Mick Donkey. I never thought I'd say that. Honestly, Profar is all right, but over $20 million a year? Question mark. I hope he is a clutch postseason hitter. He's not making $20 million a year. Again, 3-year, $42 million. He's making 12, 15, and 15. So not over 15 or not over 20 mil. Let's see. Mark Narmore says, who is this? Jim Riley thinks Bichette is going to have a great comeback season. He may. I'm not saying he won't. I mean, the resume's there. I think he could. I just don't. It's not a I don't want Bichette situation. That's not at all what this is. I don't want the Braves to sign Bo Bichette because I don't think the Braves need a shortstop. I just don't. You're looking at, again, Orlando Arcia, who we have talked about at length this past season about a lot of people just did not like him, did not want him to be a Brave going forward. But the guy is making less than $3 million a year. He's giving you solid defense at shortstop, which should not go unnoticed. It just shouldn't go unnoticed. The offense, of course, took a downtick. He is an all-star as recent of 2023. I'm not saying that gives him complete and utter control of his future destiny in the sense of he's not going to be forgiven for bad offense year after year after year, but he is a great shortstop. He has filled the role of Dansby Swanson very well, and I just don't think there's a reason to go looking for a reason to replace him. I just don't. That's just my opinion. I think you sacrifice the offense there for good defense and for not paying him. Let's just give him the Profar deal. You're not paying him $12 million, which is a pretty affordable shortstop. You're paying him 2.7, I think. So if we were paying him exactly what Profar is making this year, guess what, guys? We'd be over the luxury tax. That right there is the benefit. And I personally think that's a really good deal. Now, if RCO wanted more than 2.3 mil, you might, or 2.7 mil, you might want to start looking around, maybe find you a real shortstop and a guy that's going to carry offensive numbers on the team as well. But as long as he's willing to do a 3-year, $7 million deal, I want to say, that's pretty darn good for what he gives you. And, you know, I don't think that the Braves need to make a move there. I think their move's got to be pitching. It's got to be. Let's see. Pavetta has a qualifying offer. I believe he turned it down. I'm pretty sure. Let me see. McDonkey says sign Kimbrel and keep him away from the 8th and 9th inning. That's pretty good. William Fulgham says Daysbel Hernandez will be a stud in the 7th and 8th. I don't doubt that. And that's just one more internal option that we're not thinking of that could be really good. Daysbel was pretty reliable, this past year. And there are some guys that I know, I said this earlier, that there's diamonds in the rough in the organization that aren't as bad as we're saying they are or anything like that. Or we're assuming they are, rather. It would not be the worst thing in the world to have a competition between A.J. Smith-Shawver, Bryce Elder, and, Hurston Waldrop. These are guys who we bought in on. These are guys who, just last year, we thought Hurston Waldrop was going to do what Spencer Schwellenbach did this past season. We're only 6 months later. That's as far as we've gone, right? Bryce Elder was an all-star in 23, fell off, I will give you that. Got gassed, I think, by the end of the year. but I think could still very well be a really good starter, right? Year in to year out, could still very well do that. And we're going to have to see if that happens, but the competition would not be the worst thing in the world. It wouldn't be the greatest. The greatest would, of course, we all know, would probably be getting Dylan Cease. That would probably be what makes every Brave fan excited for this season, right? If you're not going to re-sign Max Fried, that's the move that Braves fans would want to make in the grand scheme of things. But the competition that you have, trust your organization, trust the draft process, trust the development of your organization that we've seen. You know, where do we think Max Fried came from, right? Came from our own organization. There are guys, I know the prospect capital is not as good as it used to be, or not as high, and it doesn't have the quantity, but there are some players where it does have the quality. There just are. And I don't want us to lose that just so we can go get somebody, you know, right now. Let's see. Joshua Nosworth says, great, woo, Ric Flair. You sign a 3-year, $72 million, $42 million. Good job, Braves. Good job going out and getting Profar. You guys are doing great. Keep up the good work. I'm a huge Atlanta Braves fan. Well, Joshua, thank you for tuning in, man. I really do appreciate it, but it is $42 million, not $72. Drew Rasmussen says, feels like a change in philosophy with Tim Hires. Profar is definitely a great bat, but not necessarily for the same reasons that the Braves have valued over the last several years. Exciting move by AA. You know, I didn't even think about the fact that I didn't even think about Tim Hires' perspective in terms of signing Profar. I was only thinking about the GM perspective of it, but you're right. It could be a change of philosophy. It's not so much a home run driven guy. It could be more contact and athletic. And I really think there's a focus on defense here. You know, not that, you know, Profar's won any gold gloves or anything, but he can play good defense. I kind of believe that that's more along the lines of why they did it, or why they would want somebody like a Profar, a guy who's not a DH in the outfield. He is a left fielder, you know, and I think they want a guy who's going to be here for the window. Jeff Humphreys tuning in, and he says, hit the like button, and absolutely you should hit the like button. For sure. I really would appreciate it. Helps get this out there, gets a bigger audience. The bigger audience we have, the better the comment section is, and the better the streams are. So thank you for being here once again tonight. Again, really exciting news with Jurickson Profar. Thrilled with this deal. 3-year, $42 million. Couldn't get any better. Let's go to Jaden. I don't know why the Braves couldn't get Tanner Scott until the Dodgers did. Yeah, I mean, look. I was like, man, if we could get Tanner Scott. I said from the jump, though, that the Dodgers were going to be in on it. There's just no way they weren't. And what I didn't expect is for the Dodgers to be in on everybody and actually sign everybody. That came to a surprise to me. It didn't surprise me that they were in on Tanner Scott because that's probably the best lefty reliever in the game that's available anyway, for sure. So at least with the highest upside, that kind of thing. I mean, you could argue Chapman's better in career numbers and that kind of thing. But in terms of what he can do for you right now, what he can do for you 2 or 3 years from now even, Tanner Scott's the guy. That said, I wasn't surprised by that. What I was surprised by was they were in on Kirby Yates. They were in on Tanner Scott. They were in on Roki Sasaki, which I shouldn't have been surprised by. But they were in on everybody, right? I think they were in on Soto at one point. So they're just making deals to make deals, and they're coming off a year where they won the World Series. They want to do it again. They want to buy as much capital. They are the New York Yankees now. The Yankees that we all knew and loved growing up, you know, for me anyway, I'm sure growing up for a lot of you even back in the early days, the Yankees bought everybody. That was, historically speaking, the Yankees did that. Highest contract ever at one point was Reggie Jackson for $3 million, right? We've seen, like, that's a long history. The Yankees aren't that anymore. They have the second highest payroll. The Dodgers have the first. And they're able to do this in large part because of Shohei's deferred money, which I think is ridiculous, but that's beside the point. The fact that he did it anyway, I think is ridiculous. But that's beside the point. We are in a point now where the Dodgers are taking over what the Yankees used to be. I don't like it. It is what it is. But I don't think the Dodgers are responsible for being able to make those deals, right? They can't help that that's how much money they have and that's how much money that they're able to spend. It's not their fault in that sense. I don't believe they are ruining baseball. I've heard that thrown around a lot. I don't buy into the fact that they are quote unquote ruining baseball. I just don't buy it. And the reason I say that is it's not the Dodgers' fault that nobody else is able to spend that money. It's just not. Whose fault it is, I would say, is Major League Baseball for not actually doing anything for competitive balance. Now, that's not to say that, of course the luxury tax is competitive balance or whatever, but in the immediate, there's nothing. There's no, how could Oakland possibly match up against the Dodgers? How could Tampa Bay, if you want to get away from bad ownership, how could Tampa Bay possibly compete, right? How could Milwaukee, right? Atlanta could, because Atlanta's a big market. New York could, because it's a big market. Other than the power of friendship, how could you expect some of these teams to do it? It just can't happen. And I don't think that's how baseball should be. I think baseball, everybody should have an equal ability to sign players, right? It just is what it is. And the Dodgers have done one thing, and that's make it clear that they have an ability to do that better than anybody. That just is what it is. And it's not their fault. It's not that they've done anything wrong. I don't think there's anything illegal or anything like that. I think it's more along the lines of just it's more along the lines of they have that ability, they have that money, and Major League Baseball likes it that way, and they don't want to change it. So I basically am at a point now where it's a situation where the Dodgers are going to do what they're going to do, and baseball has got to adjust. Whether that happens or not is up to Rob Manfred or whoever, replaces Rob Manfred, I guess, in 4 years. But I genuinely hope that baseball can do something to make it more competitive. And this is not sour grapes. Look, the Braves are doing very well financially. They can compete financially. It's nothing like that. I'm again more concerned with, can these lower level teams do the same? Can they do that? And I don't know that they ever will, right? Oakland, of course, they're moving, they're figuring stuff out, but it's a cartoon. It's not reality, right? It just, I don't know. But that said, I could go on a whole rant. I'm not going to do it tonight, but I could go on a whole rant about where the game is headed. The golden at bat rule, which I thought was a joke, and I still think is a joke. Like we're losing what baseball is. And again, the Dodgers haven't done anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with stocking up your resources for a championship run. It's just nobody else is doing that. I don't know why. I don't know if players are waiting to get a call from the Dodgers. I don't know what's going on. I will say that the Roki Sasaki thing was a little interesting. And the reason I say that is, do you remember Roki Sasaki was saying a lot about, I want to chart my own course. I don't want to live in anybody's shadow, talking about Ohtani, of course. And look, I don't care. He can go to the Dodgers. I don't care. It's not like it's not that big a deal, but it was very, okay, he's not going to the Dodgers. And then what does he do? He turns around, he signs to the Dodgers. It's like, okay, well, you said you wanted to chart your own course. Who got in your ear? Juan Soto had a great season with the Yankees. Great season with the Yankees. Yankees fan loved him. Loved him. It comes within a few $1 million and he goes to the Mets. That's the players union. That's what that is. And I just believe that these unions and the corporate aspect of it has too much control over the game itself. Players should be able to go where they want to play. We've heard Chipper talk about this, and I tend to believe a guy who spent 20 plus years, or almost 20 years in the big leagues and 20 plus years in professional baseball. I tend to believe it where you have these guys who say you need to go play for this team because you're going to make this much money. And I respect guys who are able to turn that down, number one. Guys like Chipper. Cal Ripken, of course, famously represented himself with the Orioles. Look, it's a millionaire's game. I'm aware of that. What I have a problem with is we're getting to a point now where it wouldn't surprise me if in 5 years somebody signs $1 million contract. And not everybody's worth it, right? Shohei Ohtani signs the biggest deal all time, $700 million. Most of it's deferred, right? Whatever. Okay. I didn't think that was worth it. Now Soto signs one for more. You mean to tell me, and all due respect to Juan Soto, you mean to tell me that a left-handed bat, because that's what Soto is worth as much as a lefty bat and a starting pitcher? I know he didn't pitch last year, but you mean to tell me he's worth more than that? Possibly the greatest talent we've ever seen grace a baseball field. And a really good left-handed bat, don't get me wrong. I just don't see how that's worth it. I just don't. And there's a lot of guys who aren't going to make close to that, who I think contribute arguably more to their teams, right? I thought the Harper deal was more, was crazy at the time. Now that's normal. Tatis signs a crazy deal as a rookie, right? 300-something million as a rookie. I thought that was nuts. Here we are, not 5 years later, and we're talking 700. We're talking almost $800 million. We're a decade away from the first $1 billion contract, if that. And I can't understand how anybody's worth that, because how do you build a team around it? I guess the Dodgers figured out how. Yeah, defer all that money to some later ownership that we're not going to have to worry about paying it, because that's what's going to happen. And I just don't see how that could be, how that should be allowed. That said, it's allowed, and that's where we're headed. So it is what it is. But that's not what you came here to talk about. So let's actually talk about what we came here to talk about, which of course is Jurickson Profar. We're going to wrap it up with this, and then we're going to hit the comment section, and we're going to get out of here. Jurickson Profar, again, 3 years, $42 million for the Braves. Yes, we had a typo. I apologize. I fixed it. Refresh your page. It is 3 year, $42 million. $12 million this year. That keeps the Braves $12 million also under the luxury tax. So they have $12 million to work with prior to hitting that bar, and of course going over. I think they're going to go over anyway, but they have $12 million to work with prior to that. But again, he'll make $15 million in 26, $15 million in 27. Let's say the Braves don't go over the luxury tax and they want to reset the tax. They would reset the tax. They pay him slightly more, but you could potentially lose Ozuna. You could potentially lose David Fletcher. I think you will lose David Fletcher. So you're going to see money come off the books anyway. But even so, you're only paying him slightly more, so that keeps you potentially under as well. The Braves could be priming themselves for a really good 2026, at least in terms of going out and getting guys. They could have a really productive 2026 as opposed to 2025. I don't know. They could be set up to do more next year. But even so, I think they could do something to be competitive this year and make a run. I still think there's room for that. Even so, Jurickson Profar, fantastic talent. Excited to see what he does in Atlanta. And again, thank you all for being here tonight. I saw a question earlier about the Clingstones. I want to say, somebody asked me if there were any high prospects going to the Clingstones. We won't really know that until spring training kind of goes through. I'm hoping so, because I don't know about the person that asked, but I know for me, I live up, a couple of miles away from Synovus Park where they'll play. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about having professional baseball in the hometown, that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm sorry about the typo, guys. I literally ran in here and started the stream, so sorry about that. Maverick says, Tyler, long time no see. Truist Park that day. Oh yeah, I met Maverick a few months ago. Since the Braves are at $12 million left before luxury tax, they can re-sign Chavez for $3 to $5 million and go get a starter and be straight. They could do that. I think they could sign a few guys and be under be under the luxury tax. King says, to add to my collection along with Acuña and Money Mike, got a new jersey to cop, talking about Profar. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of folks in here tonight. Serious Drama says the Dodgers have done almost everything right. Credit where credit is due. Yeah, credit where credit is due. They haven't broken any rules. I just think that the status of baseball is a little questionable right now. It's not that the Dodgers are wrong or have broken a rule or have broken a law. It's nothing like that. It's purely I worry about the status of baseball because it's not good to have people will say it's good, but it's not. It's good to have dynasties. That's good, okay? Nothing wrong with winning and winning and winning. But when everybody has a chance to win, that's what makes it fun, right? When New York was winning in the 90s, yeah, they were winning every year, or a lot of those years, but they had to play some pretty good darn teams, right? Yeah, I mean, I think about the Braves through those years. How many years the Braves probably should have won the World Series, right? And I just worry that we're getting to a point where is it going to be competitive? The World Series wasn't. I just worry, is it going to be competitive? Or are we just going to throw money at teams and hope they stick? And I don't want it to be that. I want it to be at least somewhat competitive and have a little parity. That's my hope anyway. Chuck Raymer, I'm hearing you. He wants to know, was Profar ever busted for PEDs? I don't believe that's the case. I don't want to comment on it and be wrong, so bear with me, but I will look it up for you. I hope not, but I don't believe so. Sorry about that. That's what happens when I start Googling stuff. Stuff just pops up. I don't see anything, so I'm going to say no. Hopefully that would be the case. Yeah, Brandon Edwards says New York won 4 World Series in the 90s, but again, who are they playing? You know, there are competitive teams, don't get me wrong, and it's typically guys who are spending money. You know, I hope that we can figure it out and baseball can be at a more competitive state and be. I don't want fans mad at the game, right? And that's what we're seeing. If you get on Twitter right now, you're going to see fans are irritated with the game and how we're navigating how we're handling the Dodgers right now. The Dodgers, it's gonna be gone in a week. Everybody will get over it. But the Dodgers right now are buying up everybody. That's obvious, and I just don't love the fact that it's happening. I saw Brandon Edwards said earlier that the Dodgers are playing MLB The Show. It's like, yeah, like my team on MLB The Show. I got Chipper at third, and Luis Gonzalez in the outfield, and Barry Bonds if he was in the game, that kind of thing. It's just not a good state of the game. That's my opinion. I hope it changes, but we'll have to see. Guys, that's gonna wrap it up. And what I'm gonna do before we get out of here is I'm actually gonna play an interview I did since the Clingstones were brought up. I'm gonna play this interview I did with the GM of the Columbus Clingstones, who will be putting the grass on the field pretty soon. So it's getting real around here in Columbus, and we're excited about it. This is an interview I did. About 6 months ago, I guess, maybe a little longer, back when it was first introduced, that before we even had a name, right? Now they got a name, they got a mascot, the field's coming together, and it's getting really exciting here in Columbus. I would really encourage everybody to, if you are thinking about it, get some tickets, come down to a game. I will probably be at most of them, so I encourage you to come down, and if you let me know on social media that you're coming, I'll be glad to come out in the stands and meet you and maybe talk a little ball with you. So here's the interview with me and the general manager, again, of the Columbus Clingstones, Pete Lavin. Pete, thank you for being here. Really just want to introduce you. Of course, you're the GM of the Mississippi Braves and the future GM of the Columbus professional baseball team. Good to be with you, sir.
Thanks, Tyler. Great to be here.
Well, let's talk about this season. I mean, you've had to be a busy man so far this year. You've had split duty, not only in Mississippi, but of course, getting things ready here in Columbus. What's it been like for you?
Well, it's been, crazy busy, as you can imagine, but truly an honor in both senses to, finish what we started in Mississippi, give the Double-A team of the Braves the proper farewell season there. And, can't tell you how excited I am about this project here in Columbus with the Atlanta Braves Double-A ball club entering in 2025, and just meeting all the people here in Columbus and picking up on their excitement about it.
Absolutely. Of course, it's an exciting development, but what was your initial reaction to the news that, hey, you got to pick up and move from Mississippi to Columbus?
Well, I think to me it's important to have my family on board, which they are. They know I'm a baseball lifer, and we've relocated in the past, and it's always been kind of an exciting thing and an invigorating time for us. A lot of thought has to go into it, but it's been an honor to be with the Atlanta Braves organization for the last 5.5, 6 years, and in combination with our new ownership group with Diamond Baseball Holdings, the amount of work that went into making this project a reality, it's ultimately just an honor to have this position right now.
Well, we sit here with Golden Park under construction behind us, and
Yeah.
I have to ask, what was the draw? Because you could have demanded a brand new stadium on a brand new lot, in a different part of town, but no, you guys are staying right here in downtown Columbus. What was the draw for you?
Well, I think all the credit goes to our city leaders, Mayor Henderson, the developers here in town, our architects at Populous. They recognized what we have here is historic. People in Columbus identify professional baseball in general, with the site here at Golden Park. And I'm so glad that decision was made to do it right here at that site, because that's what people are accustomed to. You can literally feel the history of the players that have come here. I know you came here as a kid, watched games. Everybody I talk to has some piece of their life story here at the site of Golden Park.
Well, yeah, you mentioned the history. Hank Aaron played here, Satchel Paige, Ty Cobb, Jackie Robinson, Babe Ruth. We can go on and on and on.
Right.
How much are you hoping to keep that history alive here while also modernizing the stadium?
Oh, I mean, I grew up going to games at Wrigley Field, paying $3.75 to sit in the bleachers, and uh, that is what I love about baseball at all levels. That's what gets my juices flowing. And to have a new stadium, a beautiful new park where you can actually hang on to part of that history is going to be a real treat for me. And people will recognize that when they walk in. They'll still see, some of the familiar arches. The seating bowl is going to be the same dimensions. It's not going to be a cavernous stadium. It's going to be a compact minor league ballpark that just makes you recant those family memories, whatever memories you have at the stadium. But people are going to be blown away by the new fan amenities for sure.
That's great to hear. And you mentioned the dimensions. I want to talk about the ballpark dimensions, the field itself. I know you guys have flirted with the idea of bringing the fences in and other aspects of it. How much of this, making it a hitter-friendly park, do you think is going to drive up fan interest?
Well, I know fans love the long ball, right? And nobody doesn't. My one hope is that there's more home runs hit here than there are in Mississippi, which is not known as a hitter's ballpark, where any of the guys currently with the Atlanta Braves will tell you, oh man, Mississippi was a tough place to hit the ball out of. So that'll be ultimately decided in conjunction with the Atlanta Braves as far as the final dimensions. But I'll tell you what, a lot of people can appreciate a well-pitched game as well. So people have different preferences, but I think it feels like the wind's blowing out here today. So maybe that's a good omen that you'll see some long balls by the home team here in 2025.
Was there any consideration to design the park similar, to seem like Truist Park? Was there any consideration, having a minor league team here to prepare them for the next step? Was that a topic y'all discussed?
Well, I think for our players, the moment they report to spring training, they do a lot of things to prepare them for the ultimate goal to play at Truist Park. But I think in general, each affiliate and their stadium will take on a characterization of its own. And I look forward to that here. Like I said, it already has that character built in its bones, and the history of it will bode well for the new structure, the new amenities as well. It's going to be a fun mix.
It's going to be a fun ride, and you guys are going to be here for the foreseeable future. But when you look at towards the future, we've seen the renderings of what the stadium could possibly look like, and beyond that, we've seen what this parking lot could look like one day. How much are you guys looking to the future, and how much are you guys, planning in terms of what fans can expect and what people of Columbus could expect?
Yeah, our main focus right now is what's happening behind us here with the building of the stadium for the 2025 season, and couldn't be more confident with the people we have involved at Brassfield and Gorey and Populous. They've been very communicative, and everything is going great right now. And for the future, I mean, there is the potential development here that would just be unbelievable, amazing. If here, right here in Columbus, we could have another Wrigleyville or Battery type atmosphere. But in my role right now, best suited to focus on the opening of the stadium here in April of 2025. And I'm telling you, every week as we get further along in the design process, it becomes more invigorating. Just looking forward to everything becoming a reality, and not mainly for me, but for the fans.
That's right. And with the move here, you guys bring yourselves, as opposed to a 2-day trip to Mississippi for players, for executives like yourself, you now have an hour and a half, 2-hour trip to Truist Park and the front office itself. How much was that a factor in you guys relocating within state lines?
Well, I think it played a large factor, for the Atlanta Braves player development system, for their scouts, for them to, be able to see up close in person their future players. Double A baseball is such a crucial level. To me, it's by far the best level of minor league baseball. It's the make or break level. If you perform well as a player here at Double A, you have a great shot at playing in the major leagues. If you don't do well at Double A, it may not be in the cards for you. So that's what I love about it, and it's such a great talented league in the Southern League. But and it could also, it's not up to me; it's up to Alex Antopoulos. But it's closer for those major league rehab assignments too. So we'll see.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
Diamond Baseball Holdings and the city of Columbus has made a great commitment to each other for the next 10 years. In your opinion, what would deem a successful relationship, and one that could continue beyond that?
Oh yeah, I mean, all we're thinking about is the long term. We credit to the city, credit to Diamond Baseball, credit to the Atlanta Braves. This is set up for success. I mean, as you know, there's been a lot of different incarnations of professional and amateur baseball here at Golden Park, but never with this much firepower. So it's going to be incumbent about me and my staff to create a fun, fresh fan experience. It's all about the fan experience for us, and not just the first year, every year, building on that every year. We don't want any of the fans to have the exact same experience every time they come to the game, whether it's a different promotion, different on-field contest, different theme night, different menu item. We want people, whether they come to a game the opening day or the third week in August, to have a great experience, and one that they'll tell their friends about.
Well, you mentioned the fan experience. Let's talk about the first fan experience really that we're going to have, the groundbreaking that's happening next month. I know that's open to the public, and I want to give you the open mic to tell everybody where to come and what are they going to see?
Oh yeah, it's going to take place on Tuesday, June 11th, right here at the site of Golden Park, and it starts at 4 p.m. It's going to be a pivotal day in the history of Columbus professional baseball. We'll have a lot of dignitaries here in town from the Atlanta Braves, Major League Baseball, the city leaders, and people might be able to take home a little souvenir from the event. And we want to make it a fun but informative event for people, and get a glimpse of what's about to take place. And, that's going to be a landmark day, and we're looking forward to it.
Well, Pete, I want to thank you for doing this interview, and I want
Yeah.
to thank you for, being a part of the new history of baseball in Columbus. I'm excited for it, and I know you are too.
It's a true honor. Thanks, Tyler.
In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika. New GMC Sierra 4x4 crew cabs, discounted up to $12,000 off. GMC Terrain with a roomy cabin and pro safety, discounted up to $7,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payments for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
For those of you still with us, I have one last thing I wanted to share with you tonight, and that is this right here. This is, of course, Baseball Savant, if you're unfamiliar, and this is Jurickson Profar, and basically what he's good at, what he's not good at, that kind of thing. So he is in the top 8% of Major League Baseball when it comes to expected batting average for 2024. Also, he is in top 8% of on what is that? I can't even see. But all right, so what I would look at here with Jurickson Profar, I would really go check this out. But look, 94th percentile for batting run value, 92nd percentile for expected batting average. That's pretty darn good. 90 for chase percentage, 90 for whiff percentage, 90 for K percentage. He doesn't strike out a lot. Really well spread out spray chart here. I think this is a really good pickup for the Braves. It is a different approach, that kind of thing. Fielding, he's got great arm strength or solid arm strength. His range is a little down. He doesn't have great sprint speed, stuff like that. But all in all, the hitting, what I would say is they value consistency. The expected batting average and, that kind of thing, that is what they're going to value here. And again, I'm doing this purely off of just tuning in. I wanted to look at it, but I think he does really well against the fastball here. All in all, this is going to be a solid pickup for the Braves. I'm really excited about it. And when you look over the years here, it's going to play 2016. Of course, I'll just let that run. But Jurickson Profar, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch here. We have 28 days until spring training. And, of course, we'll know more then as to where things will go from here. But, look, 3-year, $42 million, tough to beat that, in my opinion, for a player like Profar. I thought it would be higher. I thought the Braves were kind of out of it because of that. His arm value there, did you see it, in 22 was pretty good. I think his fielding is going to be put more on focus because he's on the Braves and because they're going to expect him to do that. So we'll see where it goes from there. But no, I think this is a pretty solid pickup, and I'm thrilled about it, all in all. Michael Carey, the last few comments tonight, says, any possible bullpen options since Minter went to the Mets, which, by the way, sucks. Yeah, as a guy who met Minter and interviewed him, yeah, I'll agree with that. It kind of stunk. In terms of bullpen options, there's not a lot of names that are just going to jump off the page at you. I read a few off earlier of guys you're going to know, but most of them are older. I think the best pick is David Robertson. He's a righty, not a lefty, but I think he's probably your best pick. Kenley Jansen is available. Brooks Raley intrigues me. Amir Garrett. If you want a lefty, Tyler Matzek's out there. There are guys out there. They're just not necessarily the all-stars and that kind of thing. So we'll see where it goes from here. That's all we can really say is we will see where it goes. We'll see what AA does. What I'll tell you is this, Michael, when they inevitably do make a deal, because again, there's names out there, when they inevitably do make a deal for relievers or for a starter or whatever the case may be, I'll be able to give you a more comprehensive review of that. For right now, though, it's kind of tough because I don't know what they're going to do. And I'd have to give you a comprehensive idea for everybody. And that takes a lot of time and takes a lot of research and that kind of thing. I can do it, but it takes a lot of time. In terms of just pure names of me looking at the list that I like, I wouldn't mind Kenley again. I really wouldn't. Craig Kimbrell's there. If it was prime Craig Kimbrell, I'd be all over it, but it's not. And I don't know that Kenley, at his age is going to be as good as he once was, but maybe he can be good once as he ever was. Brooks Raley intrigues me. David Robertson intrigues me. I mean, there's guys. The two best are gone, right? Jeff Hoffman, gone. Any guy that you wanted to give a long-term deal to is out of the picture. In my opinion, anyway. I could be wrong on that. But there are still guys out there. We'll just have to see what they do. 21 says, Drew Hackenberg is going to be a pitcher who is worth seeing. I hope this sticks. Me too. I'd love to. I haven't seen him in person. I'm sure I'll get a good up close and personal look when I head down to spring training. I haven't booked that trip yet, but when I go, we'll of course have some content from there. Comholio, I guess is how you say this, says, I think the Braves should keep Kelenic as the number one outfielder and base runner backup. Remember, he's still very young and has great upside. I don't disagree. I think he is still your most tradable piece because we don't have a lot of trade capital, and he's one of those guys who's kind of just filling a role, right? That said, I think you're right. I do think he has upside. I do think he's young. I think he has power, and he has an ability to carry a club when he's on. It's just a matter of keeping him on. That I think he's going to struggle with the consistency, that kind of thing. Personally, I like Kelenic. I think he had to fill different roles this year. He plays excellent defense. I mean, he wasn't bad at the leadoff spot. Unfortunately, it's got some stiff competition for that spot on the Atlanta Braves. So we'll see what happens. But lastly, just to wrap up here, Jurickson Profar, exciting addition to the Braves. Thrilled they finally did a deal that's a staple deal and deal that's a significant move forward as opposed to we're going to just make some deals and see what happens with the minors. That's exciting. And I think moving on from there, you're looking at bullpen and you're looking at starting pitching. So we'll see where we go from there. I'm going to read one more comment because he got in here late. The Battery, Carlisle Rude, tunes in. He says, joining late seems like an excellent acquisition. Also, nice shirt. Thank you. I appreciate it. I came straight from work, if you can't tell. Rarely do I ever wear long sleeves on the podcast, or on the show, rather. By the way, speaking of podcasts, I guess I better promote it. If you haven't noticed, I have been doing a better job of putting this on Spotify. That is going to be the home of the podcast going forward. This one will be on there. So if you didn't get to listen to this all the way through, I'm looking at you, Battery. If you didn't get to listen to it all the way through, we're not going to make you watch the whole YouTube video. You're going to be able to listen to it straight in here and not have to watch me. And it's easier. It's a more, I guess, accessible platform. You can listen to us while you're at the gym. You can listen to us while you're running or while you're at work or whatever the case may be with your earbuds in, and you don't have to watch the show. We're going to do that for you throughout this season. We are only going to be on Spotify. That's the only place we'll be, at least for the time being. We may add on. But every video that we do from here on out will be on Spotify at least by the next day. So stay tuned for that. If you are a podcast listener, we are making a conscious effort to do that. And that sounds, I'm sure you're out there thinking, why haven't you done that before? It takes time, and we're happy to do it for you this year. We want to make sure that we get all our listeners and all of our viewers what they come for. And of course, if you like podcast form, we're going to give it to you. It will be the exact thing you're seeing on YouTube, just in audio form. So you'll hear every ad, you will hear every intro, every sound, every whatever. You're going to hear it all. So really would appreciate the follows there. If you need the link, it is down below in the description. So if you're wanting to subscribe, go do that now. And of course, if you're out there, you're watching, you've watched an hour and 29 minutes of me, and if you're out there and you've done that and you haven't subscribed, you're crazy. So do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck. Next time they make a big signing, you're not going to want to miss the stream. We're going to be here. When they sign a reliever, when they sign a starter, whenever that happens, we will be live on the air as quickly as possible, and you don't want to miss that. So, again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications. With that out of the way, guys, we want to thank you for watching. We also want to thank our sponsors, Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika, Alabama. They have been a great sponsor, not only this past season, but they will be a great sponsor this season as well. And they do a lot to help us here and get us equipment, that kind of thing. They've been great. If you need a new vehicle, I promise you, you will not find a better place than Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC. Again, in Opelika. and they will, I promise you, make you leave with a smile. That said, guys, again, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time right here at On Deck.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.